Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Susan, if you haven't met me yet, and I am a transformational coach and qualified therapist. And today I am going to be sharing some insights, advice, and all that I know around boundaries. And this video is going to be really helpful for empaths, for anyone who has grown up with no healthy role models around them that that portrayed healthy boundaries. So this video is also going to be helpful for anyone who struggles with boundaries, struggles with setting boundaries, empaths, and anyone who is highly sensitive and needs to have stronger boundaries. This may inspire you to start to speak your boundaries more. And this video is going to be helpful for anyone who has had codependent patterns play out within themselves or with other people. Then boundaries is also very important in that case. So boundaries. There's two types of main boundaries. One of them is limitations, which is what is your limit? What is your limit before your well-being starts getting affected, before your health starts to get affected? What is your limit? And also the other type of boundary are your requirements. What do you actually need? What do you need to be healthy? And this is usually in the context of a relationship with a partner. What do you need from them, and what do you want from them and the relationship for you to feel happy and fulfilled? So the types of boundaries: there's emotional, mental, spiritual, physical, time and energy, and material. There's six main boundaries that I could think of, and let's go through all of them. All right, you ready? So emotional boundaries. And if you want to take notes or you want to I will be asking some questions, and if you want to pause and actually write down your questions and journal, then I highly recommend that. Having a journal and reflecting actively when you're watching videos like this can help you make the most of it. Otherwise, it's just content. It'll just go through your mind. It'll just go through your head. So if you're serious about boundaries and you want to start placing healthier boundaries, then this is my invitation for you to get started. Okay, it's my invitation. You've got my full support. I believe in you. Let's do this. Emotional boundaries. So emotional boundaries is anything to do with how you feel and what you're willing to let in emotionally, what you're willing to experience emotionally in your life. So in terms of a limit, emotional boundaries could be not being open to speaking about things that might trigger you, or there might be a topic that brings up strong emotions for you, and you just have to set your boundaries. There might be a trauma connected to it. That's completely understandable, and you can respect your emotions. If you're not willing to go through that and go through the emotions of that, then you have to say, no, I do not want to speak about that right now. That's one example. Another example of emotional boundary is whether you're willing to hold space and let other people emotionally offload onto you. You don't have to do this. You don't have to play the nice person and let other people offload onto you if you don't want to. You just have to say, no, I'm not in this space to listen and to hold. I'm not. I don't feel like holding space for you right now. Like, I'm not in the space to do that. So that's it. Those are some examples. So my question to you is, where are your emotional boundaries at, and are you completely happy with them? And if you're not, what improvements can you make? And are you willing to practice speaking those boundaries? So emotional requirements in terms of boundaries. This is like the, I guess, positive boundaries is things that you need, things that you want. So emotional requirements, for example, in emotional boundaries as a requirement in a relationship, could be, I would really like it if if you could listen to me and actually be really present with me. That's an example of an emotional boundary that you might require in a relationship, is maybe that emotional connection, that depth of communication and presence. That could be an emotional boundary that you require. And yeah, I mean, example, I just gave you an example of what that might look like. So that emotional requirement, the presence, the understanding, the meeting each other emotionally, being able to communicate that could be what you need to feel fulfilled in a relationship. Next is mental boundaries. So this is, it refers to other people's opinions, thoughts, ideas, things that happen. Yeah, it's mostly around thoughts and ideas. So what are your boundaries around other people's thoughts and ideas? Are you willing to accept and receive other people's ideas? And if you don't agree with it, are you open to speaking your boundaries if they are being projected onto you? So if you don't agree with an idea, can you actually say, yeah, I hear what you're saying and it's got valid points, but I don't agree with it completely. Are you willing to set those mental boundaries? And also, what are you willing to receive mentally? So everything that we watch and listen to goes into our subconscious mind. And if you are not in full congruency with a material, with a resource, with information, with a type of informational resource such as television, or social media, do you have mental boundaries around that? What are you willing to let in? What kind of information are you willing to allow your subconscious mind to receive? So my mental boundary is that I don't watch television because I find a lot of it to be fake and just pure entertainment. But I'm also aware of how the subconscious mind works, and I'm not going to allow myself to get programmed by television. I've had to do a lot of work to reprogram my mind and to release a lot of beliefs that came from watching television when I was younger. So that is a mental boundary. But you might have mental requirements, which is another sort of boundary. So that's like the positive boundary. And for you, that might mean setting time aside to read your favorite books and to do your favorite courses. And yeah, mental boundaries. So spiritual, actually, I'll leave the spiritual to last because that doesn't always apply to everyone. It applies to some people more than others. So if you're someone who's really spiritual and you do rituals and ceremonies and you engage in those transpersonal spaces and practices, then the spiritual boundaries will be very important to you, but I will get back to that at the end. So physical boundaries, what are you comfortable with when it comes to physical touch and physical connection? A physical boundary is you may not want hugs, so can you say, no, I don't, sorry, I'm not a hugger, and actually instead of coping it, just say no, and step back. Are you willing to do it? I know it's really uncomfortable to set these boundaries sometimes because you could be you could be creating awkwardness or letting other people down, but ultimately you're honoring yourself, and that means you're respecting yourself, and that actually allows other people to respect you more because you're being real, you're being authentic, and you're doing it from a place of kindness. There's a way that you can communicate boundaries. It doesn't have to be a cutthroat kind of way. There's ways to communicate boundaries that can be quite easily received. So, but you may have mental positive boundaries, aka requirements, and that is usually to do with relationships, intimate relationships. So you might need to be in a relationship where there's a lot of affection, there's a lot of intimacy, like physical intimacy, and that's what fulfills you, and that's what makes you really happy and makes you want to be in the relationship more. So that could be a physical requirement. So again, a question to you, if you have your journal, is where are you currently at with the boundaries that I just listed, with your mental boundaries and with your physical boundaries? So that's a question. Where are you at with your boundaries? Just reflect and ask yourself, how can I improve? And am I completely honoring myself at this time? Am I open to speaking my truth, regardless how the other person feels? With kindness, of course. So time and energy is another sort of boundary. How much time and energy are you willing to put into things? And if you're putting too much time or too much energy into something, and you're allowing your time and your energy to be used in a way that actually feels like it's not honoring you and it's not actually serving you in the best way, then are you willing to set those boundaries and say, yeah, and just say no, I don't want to put my time and energy into this anymore. I know it can be tricky, right? But it takes time. It's a journey. Be gentle with yourself and just do your best to improve little by little every day. It will make a difference. So it also can refer to how you allow your time to be used. So let's say if someone is always late, that is crossing your time and energy boundary, because let's say you are really busy and you can't and you feel quite disrespected when someone's like half an hour late. Some people may not mind, some other people will really mind. So are you able to communicate that to the person and let them know, hey, if you're going to be 30 minutes late, I'll prefer that we don't meet up at all, or you let me know in advance, something like that, or just speak your boundaries around that. So time and energy can also, you might require that as well, that there's a positive side, a positive boundary for time and energy. So let's say you're entering a business project and you've created this business project, you've invited people in. Now you actually require for them to be part of the project, you're going to need a certain amount of time and energy from them, and they all need to contribute. Otherwise you could be doing all the work, right? So a positive boundary is that you might need them to work on it 1 hour a day, or like 2 hours a week, and be able to communicate that. And if they are not contributing in that way, then your boundary then becomes a negative boundary where you have to tell them, you know what, I feel like you're not as passionate about this as I am, or you're too busy and I need someone who's fully in and can work to a level that I'm working so we can make this successful. Just something like that. So that's just an example. So material boundaries. So material boundaries is more for like if you live with other housemates, or you live with your partner and you have some requirements or restrictions around how often your possessions may get used or how they are treated. So this is a boundary that you can set. Like, don't use this certain pot because it's my grandma's, or I don't know. So I mean that's the example. Or if you're gonna use my CD player, can you wipe it afterwards? I don't know, just some. I'm bad at this because I can't really give examples because I'm not really that kind of person. I like to share my materials, but not everyone's like that. So that's just an example. Or please don't sit on that chair. So that's, yeah, some examples of some negative boundary material boundaries. How are you going? What are your limitations around how your materials are used and how you share your materials? All right, and the spiritual, this is the last one. So spiritual boundary. So if you are someone who is, yeah, quite you play in the world of energetics, and you are really yeah, like you put yourself in situations where you might get psychic readings, or you might do energy work or offer energy work, or you're in the world of tantra, then spiritual boundaries are so important. So when you give permission for yourself to open up, it means that you are susceptible to being more vulnerable, because it means you are given permission for the spiritual world to communicate with you. And one spiritual boundary, which is just a law, it's just a spiritual law, which is no one should be able to read you or tamper with your energy and your free will without your permission. So if someone does that, that is crossing your spiritual boundaries. Or someone reads you and they're reading you psychically and you did not give them permission to read you, then that's a spiritual boundary that they might be crossing. So yeah, other than that, I mean, that's just one example, but there's many others. So hold on. Excuse me. Just cleansing. So yeah, spiritual boundaries. So another spiritual boundary might be, if you're going to open up a space, you need the space to be closed, otherwise you're just left open, and that's not safe. So that's an example of a spiritual boundary. Another you might have a positive spiritual boundary, which is, you know, in a relationship, you might need them to have a spiritual connection with you, where your spiritual beliefs are the same, and or you're, you know, you both have to believe in angels or God or Jesus, or, you know, you might have that spiritual boundary for you to feel like you can be your optimal self and be all that you are in the relationship. Anyway, if you have any other questions or you want me to go deeper into any of these boundaries, please share, let me know, comment below, send me an email, or yeah, get in touch. Please like my video and subscribe to my channel. It would really help. I am just starting out. Like, I'm still pretty new. I'm getting intimate, the momentum. I'm loving it. So I really would appreciate your support. And of course, I am a qualified therapist. I'm a holistic counselor and coach. So if you're needing any extra support to help you live your optimal life and release what doesn't serve and break out of limiting patterns and behaviors, then I am so here for you. Just reach out to me, go to my website www.susanvu.com and book in your free consultation. All right, thank you so much for watching and have a beautiful, blessed day.